All right, everybody, how you doing? My name is Chris, the builder. I talk about building stuff and development. I'm a developer in New York City. I build 1 and 2 family homes and do quite a bit of it. I also own about 700 apartments nationwide. So today we're going to talk about the City of Yes in New York City. It's a wonderful development for developers, neighbors, and people who already live there are probably upset about it. As everyone here knows, the world is filled with NIMBYs, not in my backyard. So hey, this sounds wonderful, but not right next to my house. So New York City has gotten into the habit of down-zoning areas for quite a while now, and New York City is a very development-intense market. We need housing, we need a lot of people to come. As little as people want to believe it, density drives values up, not down. So people hate density, but the truth is, people love living in dense markets, if that makes sense. And what it did is it basically locked up development where we couldn't fit that many more units into the city because it wasn't really allowed. So Mayor Eric Adams came along and finally, after years of trying, passed the City of Yes Housing Initiative. And this passed in December of 2024. So about 6 months prior to making this video, the City of Yes passed. Basically what I did is I stopped absolutely everything and I wanted to learn about the City of Yes, so I become a better builder / developer. And remember, the best way to become a better builder / developer is to learn your local zoning. If you know the local zoning, I promise you it's an easy game to win at. There's a lot of people who do not know about their local zoning. They basically go to an architect and tell the architect, hey, I see this piece of land, what is it good for? They don't turn their brain on it all. They just simply drop this survey in front of an architect, sometimes not even a survey, and they say, what is it good for? And they wait for an answer. If you understand your local zoning, you could come up with your development sketch and know what it's good for and place the offer on the property prior to anybody else. Let's get into it. City of Yes. There's going to be a couple videos on this. If you like this content and you like development content, just throw us a subscribe so you can see our videos. Hit the bell icon so you know when we put a new video out. So the City of Yes, there's a couple of big things, but here's where I believe the biggest value is. The first thing we're going to talk about with the City of Yes is transit zones. One of the most largest changes with the City of Yes is they're really respecting the transit zones. The first important note here is the definition of transit zone has changed. The zoning used to read that you had to be within a half a mile of a train station. And to get more specific, the corner of your block, so you have block and lots, the corner of the block had to be within a half a mile of walking distance, not as the crow flies, to the first step of the train station. That no longer is active. Check out my screen. So as you can see here, we typed in ZOLA NYC on Google, or you could type in, if you like the long way, zola.planning.nyc.gov. We'll go ahead and click it here. They're excited to show you some new features. Yep, so what they have done recently is greatly increased the filters on the map. You would go down here and you type in Greater Transit Zone. So the Greater Transit Zone, you can see Manhattan is basically all a Greater Transit Zone. Most of Brooklyn, parts of Queens, and just slivers of Staten Island. Now, the transit zone is as the crow flies. It is no longer walking distance. So it seems to be that we can't really tell if they respected the train stations or not, because it almost seems that it's a half a mile within the train tracks, not so much the train stations. But in either case, if you want to know where the transit zones are, the orange is it. This is what they will respect. So they will not be sending a surveyor out to measure. If you're within this zone, you are in the Greater Transit Zone. So what New York City is trying to do is it's trying to increase its transitability, if that's a word. So they want people to use mass transit more. So they're allowing us to build denser, and we're going to be respecting the transit zones. One of the biggest benefits of the City of Yes, I see, is a qualifying lot or a qualifying residential site, as they call it. Let's talk about the parameters you need to get to a qualifying residential site, and then I'll tell you the benefit of it. One is you have to be on a street that is at least 75 foot wide. There is one caveat to that, and I'll tell you that in a minute. Number two, the lot has to be at least 5,000 square feet. So 50 by 100 lot, you're good. Number three is it has to be within the transit zone. We went through that already. And number four, it can't be R1 or R2. They're still protecting the great areas. R1 and R2 in New York City, like most markets, is the least dense buildability in the city. So let's talk about the width of the street for a second. I said 75 feet. It has to have frontage on a wide street. Wide street is over 75 foot. You don't have to front it though, meaning the front of the house does not have to be on the wide street. It just has to have frontage on a wide street. So if it's street-to-street property and the backyard has frontage on the wide street, technically you could put houses that are facing another street because it has frontage on a wide street. So you don't have to have an address that's actually fronting a wide street. Hopefully you get that. And here's another shortcut that a lot of people aren't going to notice. You could be on a wide street, which is difficult because there's not too many wide streets, especially in the smaller boroughs, or you could be on the short dimension of a block. Now, if you take a rectangular section of a block, that's typically what it looks like in New York City, you have the long side of the block and the short side of the block. The short side of the block, if it's shorter than 230 feet, look at my screen for a second. So you have the long side of the block and the short side of the block. So if you have frontage on the short side of the block and it's less than 250 feet from, in this example, Sheldon Avenue to Sinclair Avenue, those lots will qualify. So they have to be over 5,000 square feet still. They qualify for the width of the street because they're actually on the short side of the block. And these corner lots, you would be able to face these on Sheldon, although Sheldon is not a wide street. Because they're on the short side of the block, you can technically face them towards Sheldon, which would be a more favorable condition. And the reason they're doing this, by the way, is the short side of the block technically has, or usually has, better parking than the long side of the block. And remember, another thing you'll be able to do is you could do assemblages here, put two lots together, and then technically you would qualify. If you could, subscribe to the channel now, and in my next video, I'll describe to you what you could do on the qualifying lot now that you know how to find them.